So we're going to be going over, so today's webinar's topic, we're going to be talking about frequently asked questions. So we've sent out a form for all of you to fill out questions that you wanted us to answer. So we've picked some of them to go over today. So the agenda today, so we're going to be going first, introducing your presenters. So as I mentioned, my name's Stefania. I'm Keela's customer support team lead, and I'm joining by Amanda. Amanda is our customer support specialist. So you've probably heard a lot from us in the past. And if we've chatted before, it's really nice to put face to the names. And then we're going to get into each question. We've got 11 questions to cover. And then at the end, we're going to do the Q&A. Perfect. So I'm going to get started. So I'm going to go over the first half of the questions, and then Amanda's going to go over the last half of the questions. So I'm going to get started. So the first question that we received is, our organization has several different newsletters. How can we allow our subscribers to individually manage their subscriptions so that they may opt out of one newsletter but remain subscribed to another? This is a very good question, and I wanted to start with this question for today's webinar. And the reason is that our product team is actually going to be releasing this very soon. So we're going to be releasing in Keela mailing lists, and this is going to help you as an organization have different mailing lists for your contacts to be subscribed to. So for example, contacts can be subscribed to your main newsletter, and they can unsubscribe from other emails that they do not wish to receive. So we're hoping to have this out within the next few months. We're not really sure on the timeline exactly yet. So I would say stay tuned to our What's New and announcement on Keela in-app that we announce once we have a new release, and for that user pilot that we do put out on Keela. So that was our first question. That was kind of like an easy one in there. I just wanted to pop it at the beginning just to kind of tease you all that functionality is definitely coming out to Keela very soon. Okay, so we're going to be going into question number 2. So can email communications have web browser versions so they can be archived on a website? And this is also a very good question. Keela right now does not have the ability to have a web browser version for our email marketings. However, what we recommended in the past is that you can download your email marketing as a PDF, and I'll show you in a minute on my Keela account how you can do that. And then you can have like a page within your website where you put in the PDF. That way you can have your own newsletter or email that you've sent out from Keela directly on your website. So if we dive into Keela right now, so I hope everyone can see my Keela account here. So if we dive into Keela right now and we go into communications, and we take a look at the email that you wanted to have on your website. So in this case, I'm going to look at this one. So Merry Christmas from the Popper Project. And once an email has been sent out, you have the ability to export it to a PDF. So I'm going to click here on Actions, Export Email Marketing to PDF. So I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes there for it to download. And then you can just click here, Download. And then you can see in here the PDF. The formatting can look a little bit different on the PDF, and that's just the functionality of like moving something from an email to a PDF. So that's something that you might need to keep in mind there. But this would be what you can definitely go ahead and add to your website. So what you can do once you have this PDF is that you can have like a specific page within your website where you can link people to, you wanted them to see this specific email. Perfect. So I'm going to move over to our next question back into our presentation. And this question, I also felt that it was really good to add in here just because of with everything coming around our original forms retirement. So the question is, how can I add custom questions on the new form builder? And then how can I export those form responses? So we've gotten a lot of questions within the past few months since we announced that we're retiring our original donation and subscription forms, that how you can add those custom questions to those forms. So I'm just going to pop in back into Keela, and I'm going to be showing you all of that. So let's go back into Keela, and I'm going to be looking at forms. And I'm going to look at in here at this standalone subscription form. So I'm going to be showing you from a subscription form, but the functionality is going to be exactly the same when you're adding fields to your donation form. Something to keep in mind is that now with our new forms, you have the sharing settings. So we have like standalone, embedded, and pop-up. Our pop-up forms have limitations when it comes to the questions that you can add just because of the pop-up and the sizing. So you wouldn't be able to add custom questions to a pop-up form, but you can definitely add questions to our embedded and our standalone forms. So I'm going to move over to the designer. And then you would decide where you want the question to go. So in this case, I'm going to click here, subscriber info, and you can click in here, add fields, and you can see in here all of the fields. So you're going to see all of the Keela default fields, and then you're also going to see all of your custom fields. So you can pop in your custom fields to your form as questions there. So for example, I can add other personal information. Let's do birth date, but I could also add, let's do volunteer. So for example, I can do like volunteer availability. And all of the fields that come in here within the question are part of your options for that specific custom field. You can also add like previous volunteer experience, languages spoken, etc. So that would be how you can add those questions. And then once you're filling out the form, you can see all of those questions in there. So we can take a look at this form, and we can fill it in together. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill it in. I'm going to do my name, my email, and then I'm going to do my birth date. Let's just pop in and random in there. And I'm going to choose my availability. So let's do I'm available Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays in the mornings. And then I'm going to I have volunteered with one other organization. Email marketing, and I'm going to I speak English and Spanish. And then I'm going to submit that form response there. Perfect. So that's been submitted. So now you can see that the form is ready and it's receiving responses. So that would be the first part. So adding custom questions, custom fields into your form. The next part of this question would be about exporting those responses outside of the form. So if we take a look into the responses tab, we can see in here the contact that have responded to your form. And in order to export this form response, you're just going to need to select them. If there's more than two, you can just click the down arrow and select all pages. And then we're going to click here actions, and then you have two options to export. We can export to a PDF, which I'll show you how it looks like. Or we can also export to a CSV, which is a spreadsheet. Let's take a look at the PDF to see how it looks like. Okay, let me just pop that in here for you to see. So I get the PDF on my other screen. So this is how the PDF looks like. So you just get all of that information in there. So that was for Maryland, and then I can show you my most recent one in here. So you can see all of the information in there. So I have my name, last name, birth date, and all of the custom fields that I've added in there. So that would be the PDF. And then in order to get the CSV, it would be the same. So we just select all pages, actions, export to CSV, and then I can select what information I want exported. So I'm just going to select all informations in there, and I'm going to click next. And then again, you can just give your file a name if you want to be specific for that file, and I'm going to click save. Just going to wait a few seconds in there for that to get done, and then I'm going to click in here so I can take a look. So you download it, and then I'm going to take a look at it on my computer so I can show you what it looks like. And with Excel. So this is the spreadsheet that I'm going to get. I opened it on Excel, which is what I have right now. So you can see all of the information that came out from the form responses in there. And then you can see the first name, the volunteer and availability, the previous volunteering experience, and then the language is spoken. So those are all the fields that are for exports. When you're exporting from a donation form, you're also going to be looking at exporting specific transactional data in there as well. So I'm going to close this one. I'm going to back into Keela. Perfect. Let's just put this back on. There we go. Okay, so that was the second question regarding, the third question, sorry, regarding adding custom questions to the form builder and then how to export those. I'm going to move on to the next question that I have here. So question number 4, our organization receives payments in checks or cash for monthly donations or one-time donations. How do I track those in Keela? So these are going to be monthly donations versus one-time donations are going to be tracked a little bit differently, but I'm going to show you both within Keela. So there's 2 ways that you can do this. So the first way is that you can come into Keela and you add them manually one by one. Or if your organization is receiving multiple of these a month, you can do it via a spreadsheet. So let's go through the manual one in Keela first. So for that, you're going to want to go into the fundraising. And then we're going to go into transaction because we're going to be adding transactions into Keela. And I'm going to go ahead and click create new. And I'm going to assume right now it's a donation. You're first going to search for the contact who's going to be doing that donation. So I'm going to do that under myself, my name. The gift type, you're going to select the type of gift, the amount of the contribution. So in this case, I'm going to do $200. You can do the date received and you can backtrack if the donation was received in the past. So I'm going to backtrack it to, let's say, May 15th. So the donation was received 10 days ago. And I'm going to click next. Here's where I can associate it to any like campaigns, impact areas, etc. So I'm going to associate it to my golf tournament. Let's do an impact area of event A. And then you can add in any dedication or notes as well. The receipting, I can decide here how I want the receipting. So if I wanted to send it out via email right now, I can just generate the receipt for print and mail. I can generate the receipt and letter for print and mail. I can skip for now. So if I want to create this later, I can just completely ignore it for receipting. I'm going to do the generate it now and via email. And I'm going to add in here the address. So I'm going to add in our Keela office address as my address there. And then I'm going to click next. And then for the payment method, this is where you're going to be adding your offline payment method. In my case, I'm going to do a check, which is kind of like the most typical one that you're going to be getting for this. So you can add a check number. So I can do 1, 2, 3, and then you can do the check date. So if the check date is different from like when you receive the check as an organization, you can do that in there. So let's say that I received it on the 15th, but the date is the 10th. So I can do that there. And I'm going to click save. So that's automatically creating the transaction for me. And it's also going to be automatically creating the receipt. So let's just give it a minute there. Perfect. So the donation was successfully added. And as you can see, all of the information is here, the total amount, the date received, the type. I can click in here and I can see my receipt. And then I can see in here all of the information that was paid, receipted. I can see that it's a one-time transaction. It was received via check, the check number, and then the check date. So that would be for one-time donations in here. When it comes for recurring transactions that you're receiving, let's say via check as well, that would be actually managed via scheduled recurring. So in that case, you would probably want to create a recurring donation. Again, I'm going to use myself again as the example, and I'm going to do the 20 as the $20 for my donation. I'm going to do that. It's a once a month donation, and it starts on the 25th, which is when I receive the check. Associations, again, you can associate here to any campaign, impact area, source, keywords, etc. And then you can also set up the receipting. And here's where you can also toggle it on or off if you want to send a confirmation email about this subscription started. And then the next, you can do the payment method via check as well. So again, I'm going to add the 1, 2, 3. Let's say that the check was from the 20th, and then I'm going to click save. So the only thing to keep in mind in here is now that you've added a schedule recurring with an offline payment method, Keela is going to automatically add this transaction every month on the 25th automatically. And it's not going to stop unless you tell Keela to stop. So unless you come in and cancel the transaction, the recurring transaction. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing this via recurring transactions with the offline payment because Keela is not knowing really if the payment has been received. So you would have to come in and cancel it if the donation stopped. So let's click save in here, confirm. Yeah, so it asks you like, are you sure that you want to create one with an offline payment method? So it's just getting created there. And you can see in here all of the information. So right now we've seen that this was received. And then again, on the June 25, it's going to come in and add a new transaction. It's automatically going to send the receipt to myself on my email there. So that would be how you can do it manually in Keela. The other option is to do it via a spreadsheet. And then I do have a spreadsheet here that I've created so that we can import together. So let me just pop that in here. The other way would be doing it through a spreadsheet. And again, I just have this spreadsheet in here and I have 2 transactions that I've added in there. So I have one for myself and one for Amanda. We have the total amount of our gifts. And then I have added one as cash and the other one as check. So I can come in and then import this into Keela. So I would just need to save this as a CSV file. And then I'm going to do offline transactions. I'm going to save it. And then again, I would go back into Keela to go ahead and import these here. So in order to import transactions into Keela, we're going to go over to organization settings, imports, and I'm going to do a new import here. So I'm going to choose the file, which is going to be the offline transactions, and it's going to be a donation transaction file. And I'm going to click save. So I have the full name, email, amount, date, campaign, impact area, and payment method. And I'm going to click next. So the import validation is telling me that my data is sparkling, is really good, and I'm going to import it in here. So once the import has been done, I can see the 2 transactions now made their way over to Keela. The only thing to keep in mind is I've imported those in here. Where is it? So these ones have not been receipted as I did not, as I imported them. So that would be where you can come in and receipt these ones in Keela. So that would be the 2 ways that you can track and do offline payments in Keela. Okay. I'm gonna move over to our next question. So our next question is, I want to sell tickets to an event using a Keela donation form. Only part of the transaction is tax deductible. How can I set this up? This is a great question, and this is something that you can actually do with our new Keela donation form. So I'm going to show you again how this looks like. So I'm going to go back into Keela, and we're going to be looking again at forms. And in this case, I'm going to be looking at April fundraiser form. And where you're designing the form, you can see in here that you have the ticket prices that you can add as your donation tiers. In this case, the only way for this to work, since only a part of the ticket is tax deductible, is that you only have 1 tier for that amount. So I'm going to edit the tiers in here. I'm going to remove this too. And I'm going to do 1 ticket. And I'm going to do that the price is $250 for the ticket. And then I'm also going to remove the monthly interval, so only 1 time for the event. And then I'm also going to remove the custom donation amount because I only want this one in there. And then we want to do this by donation tiers. And then you can also have your campaign linked to it and have the progress bar in there. The key how to set this up is going to be on the settings of the form because you want to add a material benefit. And the material benefit is going to be the amount that is not tax deductible. So out of the $250 ticket, $50 is not tax deductible in my example because this is dinner at the gala. So the $50 are not tax deductible, only $200 out of the $250. And then anytime someone purchases the $250 ticket, the receipt is automatically going to include that $50 is part of the dinner for the gala, and that part is not tax deductible. So that would be how you can set this up within a Keela form. The only thing to keep in mind is that this is only going to work for when you're selling 1 ticket per transaction, because we can only add 1 amount for the material benefit. We cannot add tiers to it. So that's the only way that you can do it. I've seen our customers, sometimes they just add an information here at the text of the form so that they can add information about like, hey, if you want multiple tickets, you can go ahead and do multiple transactions. So that would be my question number 5. Next up, I'm going to go over question number 6. So I want to create a membership plan and sell it in Keela. How do I set it up? So this is also a very good question, and we're going to go back again into Keela, but this time we're going to be looking at memberships. So some organizations do sell memberships as part of what they do. So I'm going to click in here, creating the new membership plan from scratch. And you have to give your plan a name. Keep in mind that your plan name is also going to be visible on the form. So I just suggest that what you put as a plan name is also like that it's showing on the form and on your website. So in this case, I'm going to do monthly family plan. And you can add a description. Let's do. And then you do select the duration. So we have monthly duration, quarterly duration, annual, one time, or lifetime. For my example, I'm going to do a monthly one of $50. You have 2 options in here. So membership started in the past. So if your membership has already started and you were tracking this elsewhere and you want to import those subscriptions, you can say that it started in the past and you can say the date. So I can just say that it started on June 1st. The end date, you can keep it open if it's still an ongoing membership. And then for when it comes to setting up the membership, you can turn on the option to renew. So that way you can do automatic or manual renewals. So the renewals can be renew membership on join date. So for example, if I purchase this membership today, it's going to automatically get renewed on June 25th, then July 25th, etc. Or you can do it on a specific date of the month. Typically, our customers do join date just because it makes sense when you're charging for the month. And then you can decide in here if you want both automatic and manual renewals or only manual renewals. The renewal option is up to the member if they want automatic or if they want manual. And I'll show you when we do the membership form in just a second. And you just click in here, save once you're ready. And this is how your plan is going to look like in Keela. There's 2 ways that you can subscribe members into this membership. The first way would be through here where you can just manually add them. So I can go ahead and add myself into this membership and I can decide if I want auto renew or not. And if I want to send a renewal email automatically 10 days before renewing, you can associate it to any campaign or impact area. The receipting in here, so you can decide if you want a confirmation emailed so that this one has created, or you can also do the receipt settings in there if you want just one annual cumulative receipt at the end of the year. And again, here you can do the payment method if it's been offline, or if it's online here, you can do online via Stripe, online via PayPal. And if you're in the US, you can do online via Keela Pay. I'm going to do cash for now. And again, it gives you that prompt in here that you can, if you're sure that you're starting a subscription with an offline payment method. Just to give it a second there to load. And this is how the transaction information looks like for the plan. And if we go back, I can see in here that I have myself there as an active member. So that would be one of the ways that you can sell the membership plan. The other way would be through a membership form. So I've created this one in here to kind of show you what it looks like. And when you're setting up the form, you're just going to need to add your membership plans. So in this case, I'm going to add my monthly family plan, which is the only one that I want there. And then when we're looking here at the designer of the form, you can see in here the monthly plan, and in here you have the description of the plan. And here would be where members can decide if they want to auto renew or if they don't. So that's an option for the member to decide. It's always going to be default turned on to auto renew. So that's something to keep in mind for your members. So you can either sell the membership through the form, or you can add those manually if they're coming in from offline payment methods. So that's it for question number 6. And I'm actually going to pass it on now to Amanda, who's going to be taking over starting question number 7. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a second. And then I'm going to give it back to Amanda there.
Thanks, Stefania. I was just finishing up a question in the chat there, so I'll pass over the chat to you now, but everything has been answered up to date.
Okay.
And then I will share my screen and get started. Now that we have everything ready, we're jumping into question 7. So let's get started. Is there a way to paste a group of email addresses when doing an email marketing or e-blast? We sometimes get email lists from our local Chamber of Commerce or volunteer group. These are not necessarily people on our regular donor list, but we would like to send them emails for that one event within Keela. This is a great question. I'm sure as busy organizations, you run into situations where quick communications need to be sent out to a very specific group of people who may not necessarily be your regular donors. Since Keela is designed to manage your fundraising and your donor list specifically, this might be tricky. At this time, in order to send out an e-blast within Keela's communication tool, the recipients must be selected from a segmented list of pre-existing contacts. So the short answer is no, this is not possible unless you want to consider adding these folks in as contacts. The easiest solution would be to perform a really simple contacts import, tag them as your email list, and have them live in your Keela account for future communications. You can manage their email subscription status and the statistics that come back after each e-blast to see if they are receiving, opening, and clicking your communications. The only risk in adding your email list into your Keela account as contacts is, of course, contact management. If you're worried about your contact count and going over your contact limit, then this might not be the ideal solution for you. Another option that's available is for you to add this list via import. Again, tag them as your email list, send out the communication, and then immediately delete those contacts. This will keep your contact count lower. However, you would lose the statistics that are coming back from those communications. So it's really up to you kind of how you'd like to manage this if you're looking to use the Keela communications tool specifically. So let's hop into the Keela system and take a look at some important reminders when deciding to do a contacts import, depending on kind of your end goal here. So I'm going to jump into my Keela account. What we're going to do is make our way over to the import tool, which is under organization settings, imports. So when we do a new import, we want to make sure that we're selecting contacts as the import type. Oh, sorry, right here, as there are a few different types of imports and it's different data. So you want to make sure that you're selecting the correct type here under contacts. And then let's look at some of the settings that are available for the contact imports, as this will affect how this group is integrated into your Keela system, especially if you're planning to delete them right after. If you're planning to delete them right after your communication, let's focus on this bottom area here. And what I would suggest is selecting this bottom one, automatically creating completely new contacts when importing these fields. This will create a new contact profile, even if the contact already exists in your Keela account. If they're tagged as, email list, delete right after, you won't want to merge them into existing contacts and accidentally delete important donor information. If you're planning to keep this group active after you import them, then you can, select whatever works best for you out of the other 3 options here, such as let me choose which fields to replace in existing contacts, which will bring up our merge tool, which allows you to manually go through each duplicate that comes in through the import so you can select which fields you'd like to keep. Or you can select our favorite and our most important one here, replace only empty fields, which will update the empty fields in the existing contact. Once your contacts are imported into the system, you can go, you can go ahead into your communications tool, select your new tag as the group for the recipients, and then you're on your way. Let's move on to the next question. Okay. Can we edit standard fields in Keela? For example, the title field does not have an option that our organization occasionally needs, which is Rabbi. This is a great question. We know it's important. So the standard fields that you find in Keela are not customizable necessarily. However, you are able to create your own fields that better suit your organization's needs. There will always be that stack at the top of the pre-existing Keela fields within your contact profiles. But as you start collecting more data that is more specific to your organization, you can build out custom fields so that your team members can see the data that's most important to you. Before I jump into creating custom fields, we do recognize that Keela-ers fields might not have all of the options available. However, we do want to be as inclusive as possible. So if you see something that you'd like to add into our fields, please let us know by adding it to our product portal. This is the best way to speak directly to our product team with this feedback, so these changes can be logged and prioritized based on user demand. Back to custom fields. Let's hop into Keela and take a look. You can build them out from your organization settings, custom fields. You can see that you can categorize your fields by adding section titles like volunteer, then building the questions below, such as volunteer status, as an option. You'll notice that there are multiple question types here, and this is to represent how the question will be presented, such as multiple choice, adding files, yes or no questions, or multi-line text, which is an open text field. Let's jump into the custom field so you can see kind of how it's built out here. You can have for the multiple choice option, you build out the options here and you can add options along the way. And these options will be available as a drop down in that field within your contact profile. Once you've created a new contact field, click Save. And the custom field will not only pop up in your contact profiles, but will also be available to utilize in different ways in Keela. Remember that you'll need to create your custom fields here first before using them elsewhere. So some examples of the amazing functionality for these custom fields that are used almost daily by our customers. Number one, being able to import these fields by adding them as a column into your import sheet. Number two, adding your custom fields into your Keela forms to collect this data and ask specific questions, which will then store right into the contact profile. You can filter for these custom fields to segment your contact lists based on the answers. And last but not least, you can export these custom fields as columns during your reporting. So make sure to take advantage of these fields as they will help your organization keep track of your important donor information over time. Next question. I noticed that Stripe asks for a postal code during the checkout process, which is specific to Canada, the postal code. Does that mean we cannot accept international donations? So this is an important one to understand. When accepting donations from all over the world, potentially, it's important to understand the functionality of your payment processors so that you can better understand the experience that your donor is having while they're donating to your organization. So with all of our available payment processors, which are Stripe, PayPal, and Keela Pay, your donor will be asked for their postal code or a zip code or whatever relevant field is there for the country in which the credit card is from. So let's dive into this a little bit so I can clarify what this looks like. I'm going to open up a Keela form here. Oh, just one second. Sorry about that. Open up a Keela form that has Stripe selected as the payment processor. I have a couple test cards that I can put in here so we can test the functionality of this postal code field that's actually hiding here. It will come up once I start putting in the credit card information. So first we're going to put in a Canadian credit card number and see what happens. So you'll see as it moves over, it's going to ask for the postal code. If I put in an American credit card, you'll see it changes over to zip. Now I have a test credit card from Brazil. And you'll notice that the postal code actually disappears. That field does not come up because it's not relevant for a Brazilian credit card. So that's the functionality there. So as with most payments made online these days, the postal code field that comes up during the payment process is actually the postal code for the donor's billing address, not necessarily their mailing address. This can get confusing, say, if a Canadian donor is living in a different country with a new address, but trying to use their Canadian credit card to make a donation. They may be tempted to add their new postal code in this field when really they should be adding their postal code that was given when setting up the credit card back in Canada with their previous address. So if this ever comes up and your donor reaches out and says, I don't know how to do this, you can reassure your donor that the Keela form is able to process payments from international credit cards, and that the form will still process the payment if the postal code in their address does not match the postal code in the credit card entry. On to the next question, question number 10. So I'm not receiving notifications when a new form response comes in. How do I change that? This is great because within a bigger team, you're going to want to know how to get notifications when something changes or something happens within Keela. So notifications specifically for form responses can be managed through the associations of the form itself. A general rule of thumb for internal notifications is that you will have the opportunity to assign an assignee or additional followers depending on which tool you're working with. This is applicable for multiple tools within Keela, such as forms, email marketing, automation workflows, and internal to-dos. These are the tools in which you'll want to be receiving notifications for responses or completed tasks or internal updates. So let's jump into Keela quickly to see how these can be managed. First, I'm going to jump into a form, click Action, Edit, and these are the associations that are available here. So I can switch up the assignee. You'll see that Stefania was it, but I could change it to myself. And then there are additional followers. This allows you to select multiple people here that might want to receive these internal notifications. So anybody that's assigned to these tools here will receive notifications either within their notification bell up in the right-hand corner here, as well as an email if that's what they have selected in their personal settings. So for each individual user on your account, the personal settings will also need to be managed by each user. And you can do this by heading into your personal settings here instead of the organization settings, under notifications. And by default, you'll always have the in-app notifications turned on, but not necessarily the email notifications. So it does depend on how much time you're spending in Keela on a daily basis, whether you'd like the emails toggled on or off, but it could be managed here under your personal settings. I like to keep them all on so nothing gets missed. But if you're spending all day in Keela, you might not need that, right? So just to reiterate really quickly, the notifications depend on two things. If the user is assigned as an assignee or a follower on a task or an action in Keela, and what's happening in their personal notification setting. Okay, and now we're on to the last question. So do you have smart codes for campaigns? I'd like to address the specific campaign that was donated to on the receipt acknowledgement letter. This is a great question. We get this one a lot. So there's no smart codes for campaigns or impact areas. The smart codes are when you're typing out an email to somebody, right? You can select the smart code like first name, and it will auto-populate the donor's first name when you send out that communication. And that's true in receipt emails as well. Our team is working on adding different smart codes, such as campaign or impact areas. So that is coming in the product pipeline. But there is a really simple way that you can customize your acknowledgement letters so that your donors receive a special thank you that is more specific to where their donation is going. So again, I'm going to hop into Keela and show you around. So if we go into the organization settings, receipts and emails, you'll notice that you can customize and build out your acknowledgement letters from here. These are the default settings for all transactions and all receipts that are going out. We recommend keeping these more general, saying thank you for donating to our organization. And remember, these letters that go out are sent out as the body of the email in which the receipt is attached. It's a great way for you to say thank you for donating, and if you're able to get more specific, it's even better. So again, this will manage all receipts going out, but if you wanted to get more specific with the campaigns, let's head over to the campaigns tab. If you click into a specific campaign, such as Giving Tuesday, you'll notice that you can start connecting this campaign to multiple tools in Keela, such as email marketing, forms, and transactions that come through those forms. Heading over to the Receipt and Letters tab, you'll notice that you have the capability to toggle on or off this customization. This means that if they donate through a form that is connected to this campaign, they will receive the customized campaign letter instead of the standard one in your organization settings. So you can edit from here. This is also possible in impact areas. So if you click into a specific impact area as you're building them out, you'll see again an impact area can exist on a form, which means that any transaction coming through that form can also be associated to this impact area. Therefore, you can customize the acknowledgement letter. So when deciding to which letter you'd like to go out, please keep in mind that there is a bit of a hierarchy here. So you may run into issues if you have a form that is connected to both an impact area and a campaign, because how are we supposed to know which letter goes out at which time? So it's important to know which one's actually going to end up going out. So if your form is linked to both an impact area and a campaign, you can't send out the two letters at once, so it would be the campaign letter that is prioritized over the impact area. So make sure you remember that little trick when setting these up, and make sure to toggle on that campaign acknowledgement letter customization, or toggle it off and keep the impact area one on. Otherwise, if you're just doing one or the other, we can keep it simple, and you can follow the logic on this flowchart to see which acknowledgement letter your donor will receive. So if there's a campaign connected to the payment, they'll get the campaign letter. If there's an impact area connected to the payment, they'll get the impact area letter. If there's neither, they'll get the default settings under your organization settings. And remember, this is only applicable if you actually go into the tool and toggle on the customization there. Okay. And that is all for my half of the questions. Let's send it back to Stefania and start the live Q&A.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amanda. Let's see. I don't think we have any questions submitted. We had one from Shauna, but then we responded that on the chat. So we have about 15 minutes still here if you want to pop in any questions that you might have on the Q&A or directly on the chat, and Amanda or myself will be more than happy to answer, give you a live demonstration, or just answer your questions.
Stefania, there was one that actually came through while you were presenting, and I put it as answered by accident, I'm not gonna lie, saying that we would do it live. So if you want to take that one,
that was Shauna's
ahead.
one. Yeah, Shauna also
Perfect.
posted it on the chat, so I was able to respond to her. Yeah.
Perfect.
Amazing. So let's just give like a couple more minutes there, 2 more minutes to see if anyone comes in with any questions on the chat. Otherwise, we'll definitely share the recording for today and the slideshow so that you can have that handy as well. Okay, let me give it just 1 to 2 more minutes. I'm like, I don't want to close it yet. I want to your guys' questions. Okay, we did get one question. Is there any plan to allow donors to be able to access their accounts to view donation history or manage their recurring payments? That's a really good question, Doug. Right now, that's not really on our product roadmap, but that is something that our product team is definitely aware of. So that's something that they might be able to look at in the future, but like short term, it's not really something that is on the roadmap right now. Let's take a look. Jen, can we keep a copy of the chat? I can see if I can get a copy of the chat, like export it from Zoom as well after this. Lynn, how to create campaigns. Amanda, do you want to show her since you're sharing your screen?
Yeah, absolutely. Are we to start from scratch for creating campaigns? So I'll hop back into Keela under your campaigns tool here. You're going to click Create Campaigns up in the top corner here. Let's name the campaign. We'll just copy the one that's already there. Let's go Giving Tuesday 2023. You can add a description, which is just for internal purposes. You can add a campaign fundraising goal. So let's say we want to raise $5,000. And then again, like I mentioned in some of my in one of my questions there, you can add some followers. So if any activity happens with this campaign, these people will be notified of that activity. And then we're going to save it. And now that we're into this specific campaign, you can start associating this campaign with email marketings, forms. Any transactions that come in through those forms will be logged here, so you can see specific transactions, specific recurring transactions that were given through the forms that are connected here, any volunteer records that come in, and again, you can play with the receipt settings here. If I jump into one that is actually associated to a form, you can see this here. So you can access this form from your Forms tab, or you can access it directly from the campaign.
Perfect. Thank you for showing us that, Amanda. We do have 2 more questions from Shauna here. The first question is there an option to switch the old forms to the new forms instead of having to recreate the forms? And I wish I had better news, but since it's 2 different form builders, that's not possible right now. So you're just going to have to recreate the forms. Shauna, the other questions, if you archive a campaign, can you still access it if you're creating a segment to pull a specific group? Yes, you can. So it's not going to get archived from when you're filtering in that list of campaigns. So you can definitely do that. Let's see, I did get, okay. From Linda, I am new to Keela, still working on adding the payment process. So first of all, welcome to Keela. We're really excited to have you. Can I see an example of the donation fields? I believe that would be when you're adding a donation, right? Are you able to show us that, Amanda, there when you're adding the donation, or show like a donation and the fields that come around with it?
Like adding a new donation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so under fundraising transactions, when you're creating a new donation, there's going to be the options to do a donation or a revenue. The donations are tax deductible, eligible for a tax receipt, and the revenue are not. So if you're selling merch or tickets are some examples. So when creating a new donation, it's going to prompt you through a few different sections here to fill out. So you're going to select the pre-existing contact that is donating here. The gift type, likely money, but there are a couple other options here. The amount and the date received. Under the associations, you can associate it with a pledge, a campaign, an impact area, source, keywords. You can dedicate it to another contact here, and you can leave yourself some notes. Again, this is internal purposes. The receipting options that are available here, you can generate the receipt right now to send via email. You can skip the receipting for now. And then there are some, like if you're sending it via mail or you'd like to download it, you can put their full address there. And then the payment options, they're either online or offline. If you were to choose an online payment option, like Stripe, that would mean that you would need to have Stripe set up as your internal payment processor. And what would happen with this would be, it's telling me I don't have it, but a pop-up would come up where you actually have to enter their credit card information. But if you received payment outside of Keela, like cash or through a different payment processor that is not connected to Keela, then you can select one of the external options here. Okay. Let's say it came in as cash, and we'll save it here. And then it's going to pop us into the new transaction report. And because I clicked skip receipting for now, it's going to prompt me to do so. And you can find all of the extra information there. So I hope that answered your question there.
Amazing. So we did have 2 more questions that came on the chat, but I answered those in there.
Perfect.
So I think we're good to all get some extra minutes back to our days if we don't have any more questions. So now it's your time to submit any last minute questions that you might have for myself or Amanda here so that we can get those answered for you. Okay, let's see. It looks like we got another one. Working my way through our contact list, it's over 200 pages. Whereas when I start working tomorrow, I'd like to go directly to the page where I left off, but the page fill will not allow that. I can only click my arrow to advance page by page. To get to page of my 45 of my contact list, I have to click 45 times. Yes, so Sandy, that's currently our intended functionality, but this is definitely a great idea to add to our product portal. So Amanda mentioned it as well, and I'm gonna add the link right now on the chat to our product portal. So the product portal is a page in Keela where our product team does see all of the ideas that come from our customers. And a fun fact is most of the new things that we add to Keela are actually customer ideas. So definitely
Mhm.
pop in any new ideas in there for our product team.
Another example, something Sandy that you could consider doing if you have a filter that you're able to apply to your contacts list to bring it down to not be your full contact list. So say you're looking for somebody specifically that came in and throughout a certain between certain dates, or they have a certain tag on them, then you can always create segments of your contacts, which will reduce the list, and then you can re-enter into the segment there and work from that list instead of your full long list if you have a way to kind of segment them out. So that's another possibility. No problem.
Perfect. So I believe those are okay. We got one more from Jen in here. When receiving a payment via a credit card and I input it directly to Keela and select online via Stride as a payment processor, does Keela process and deposit the payment to our bank account, or does Stripe as our payment processor? So in that case, Keela is not processing the payment because Keela is not a payment processor. So Stripe is the one that's responsible of depositing the funds on your bank later. So that would be handled via Stripe. So Keela, as I said, is not a payment processor. We do have our in-house payment processor, Keela Pay. So Keela Pay would be the one processing the fees, the transaction, but not Keela. Perfect, no problem, Jen. Does anyone else have any other questions for us? Amazing. Well, since there's no more questions, I'm just going to end it 5 minutes early so that we can all get some extra 5 minutes to our days. Um, so thank you so much for coming along. Keep an eye out for the customer newsletter on the first Thursday of every month for our next CareLabs webinar announcements. So if you have any requests for webinar topics, you can check out the Keela community. We have specific question that you can comment on. And then I'll be sure to include it in my follow-up email, which will contain today's recording and some handy resources like this, the presentation that we just provided. So thank you so much, everyone, and we hope you have a great weekend since it's almost Friday. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.